Hello and welcome to this video on scoring the Adult ADHD Self-Report Scale. The ASRS is a widely used screening tool for ADHD. Let's get started. Step 1. Add up the score for each of the 18 questions. Step 2. Add up the scores for the inattention and hyperactivity-impulsivity questions separately. And Step 3. If you have answered at least 4 of the inattention or hyperactivity-impulsivity questions with a score of 3 or 4, you may have ADHD and should consider further evaluation by a mental health professional. Here are the questions on the ASRS. How often do you have trouble wrapping up the final details of a project? Once the challenging parts have been done? How often do you have difficulty getting things in order? When you have to do a task that requires organization? How often do you have problems remembering appointments or obligations? When you have a task that requires a lot of thought? How often do you avoid or delay getting started? How often do you fidget or squirm with your hands or feet? When you have to sit down for a long time? How often do you feel overly active and compelled to do things, like you were driven by a motor? How often do you make careless mistakes? When you have to work on a boring or difficult project? How often do you have difficulty keeping your attention when you are doing boring or repetitive work? How often do you have difficulty concentrating on what people say to you, even when they are speaking directly to you? How often do you misplace or have difficulty finding things at home or at work? How often are you distracted by activity or noise around you? How often do you forget to do something you do regularly, like missing a meal or taking medication? How often do you have problems unwinding and relaxing when you have time to yourself? How often do you find yourself talking too much when you are in social situations? When you're in a conversation, how often do you find yourself finishing the sentences of the people you are talking to before they can finish them themselves? How often do you have difficulty waiting your turn in situations when turn taking is required? How often do you interrupt others when they are busy? How often do you feel restless or fidgety? To score the ASRS, follow these steps. Questions 1 to 6 are referred to as the inattention questions, while questions 7 to 18 are referred to as the hyperactivity-impulsivity questions. Add up the scores for each group separately. If you have answered at least 4 of the inattention questions with a score of 3 or 4, or at least 4 of the hyperactivity-impulsivity questions with a score of 3 or 4, you may have ADHD and should consider further evaluation by a mental health professional. The ASRS is not a diagnostic tool, but rather a screening tool to identify individuals who may have ADHD. I hope you found this video helpful. If you have any questions or concerns, please consult with a mental health professional. Thanks for watching.